Welcome back to The Final Gaze. My name is Harrison, and I'm here with yet another guest for the podcast. Stephen, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Stephen Kesson. I'm an actor, writer, producer out here in Arizona, and currently going to school for producing, getting my master's, with the eventual goal of being a film historian.
Terrific. And how do we know each other?
We went to college together.
Yeah, what you were? We didn't really share classes, did we? We're kind of, you were morning and I was evening, or how was that?
So I was originally morning,
Yeah.
and then I became an actual employee of the school, which made me switch to night classes. So you were, in terms of academics, I believe you were just a term behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So our classes never lined up, but we ran in similar circles because we were both friends with Miguel and Jesus.
Yeah.
So,
And Jesus was on the episode last week covering Mortal Kombat. So,
how's he doing?
oh, he's doing great. He's working as an editor for Playboy.
Nice.
So he's doing real good. And he also has his own little media company, Dom Digital, where he does aerial work and photography. So he's doing great. He's over in LA right now. So
Nice.
yeah. But okay, so awesome. Well, today we're going to be discussing another indie gem. Limbo is a wry and poignant observation of the refugee experience set on a fictional remote Scottish island where a group of new arrivals await the results of their asylum claims. It centers on Omar, played by Amir Al-Masri, a young Syrian musician who is burdened by his grandfather's oud, the king of Arabic music instruments, which he has carried all the way from his homeland. Limbo is directed by Ben Sharrock. So I just want to get all that out of the way because sometimes people don't know the movie we're talking about, especially since this is a very, very small, little unknown film. So, yeah. So let's get this out of the way. What are your thoughts on the aspect ratio?
So you're talking about, was it quite 4:3 in your opinion? Because it looked like 4:3 to mine.
Yeah.
I love 4:3 for intimate looks.
Mm-hmm.
The Lighthouse used it well. Jonah Hill's mid-90s also used it well. So I thought it was appropriate for the story that they were telling.
Absolutely, particularly given the idea of the movie is that it's called Limbo for a reason, because it's like these people are stuck in limbo. There's no escape from this hellhole that they're waiting in, and it just makes it feel also way more confined.
Yeah.
And I loved it at the end when that aspect ratio opened up to when he finally played his instrument. So it's like it's like he's been a prisoner on this island, and that's represented by the aspect ratio. And finally, when he frees himself in his mind, the world expands, and it's like he frees himself. So this wasn't a pretentious thing when it comes to like this aspect ratio being used like in Justice League, just because he decided, Zack Snyder said, I'm going to have it. I'm going to have this be 4:3 just because there is a purpose to this aspect ratio. So I love that they did that. So Omar is a musician and we are filmmakers. They're two sides of the same coin. Did you relate to the quote, "A musician who doesn't play music is dead"?
Yes.
Yeah. So how so?
It's the feeling of, if you're not doing something that you're passionate about, you are dead inside. Of course, they're not talking about physical death. They're talking spiritual, and they're talking emotional. So, like, I don't know what I would do if I wasn't making films or talking about films or reading films.
Mm-hmm.
I would be searching for a purpose.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, that's what these characters looking for, not only safety from the countries they're escaping, but just purpose in life. My favorite character, I think, of the whole movie is Farhad, because he has his far-flung dreams of just the simple stuff in life that we may take for granted. An office, a suit, saying good morning to neighbors.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty obvious answer for this question. Is like, yeah, I don't know what the hell I'd be doing if I wasn't creating something If it wasn't, if it wasn't creating short films or creating photographs, I just don't know what the hell I'd be doing. Probably working a boring desk job that I would probably be miserable at. But
Most aspiring filmmakers are doing that thing. We're seeing in a lot of I don't know what you would call them, but they're jobs that you work when you want to work them.
Yeah.
Like Uber and Lyft and things like that. So I would be doing one of those just because I've been in the office environment so long and I just can't take it anymore.
Yeah, and you know that's a good fact too. Is that you know they work these jobs to get by, but the real passion is in the stuff that they really want to do, the creation of art. So like I work at a museum, and it's still like I still do what I do. Like I make videos for them, but you know they're not the videos I make. For me, my job is what I like doing, but it's not what I really want to do. I want to make the short film that is, you know, not a documentary about the museum. You know,
Right.
So, but all right. So, what are your thoughts on the character of Omar?
I love the way he was portrayed. He doesn't quite have the woe is me attitude, but he talks about the problems that he's facing being in limbo, not having the asylum in the country. And I love the way that, and this could have been a budgetary concern, you don't see the war that his parents are in. You only hear about it through phone calls, which I think almost works to the director's advantage. But you can see the pain when he talks to his parents on the payphone. You can see his own hatred towards himself. Like, why isn't he playing the instrument? You pronounce the name of the instrument far better than I can. It's a
Oud.
Oud. Okay.
Yeah,
I keep wanting to say.
Yeah, no, like loud without an L.
Yeah, because that's the way it's spelled, and I'm like, oud, oud.
There's a hatred towards him not wanting to play the instrument, but there seems to also be a hatred of how he's dealing with the fact that he believes that he abandoned his family.
Right.
And you know, it wasn't an effort to save them, but you know, his relationship with his brother is also fairly strained because, you know, I think people with siblings who follow different paths in life. This is a pretty extreme example where one is a warrior and the other is a poet, basically an artist.
Right.
So you have the warrior fighting for a greater cause, and you have the artist who is speaking from the heart as opposed with violence. So it's like you have two opposite spectrums, and you know they're bound by love and blood, but it's just not the same. And there's that guilt that this character just wears on his face so flawlessly. I saw the pain throughout the entire film, and just you know there was that very subtle crescendo of emotions that just kept building up to that emotional finale. So. Yeah. Terrific job. You know, who was the actor? Amir Al-Masri. So I don't think he looks so familiar, and I I was wondering if I've seen him in something, and I actually haven't seen any of his other stuff. So
he had a bit part in one of the Star Wars films.
Did he?
Yeah, he was Commander Track in Episode 9.
Oh, Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
It might have been a blink and you'll miss it moment because I don't, or maybe that's where I recognize him from. I just don't think maybe it was like a background character like Dominic Monaghan was.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen Jack Ryan, the John Krasinski version.
No, I haven't. That's an Amazon thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only other film that we would have known him from would have been Jon Stewart's Rosewater, but that was 7 years ago.
See, now I don't think I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, aside from Rise of Skywalker, I have a feeling he was just like a background character because he didn't look like it. Yeah. He didn't really stand out to me really, but his face looked so familiar. But I guess maybe he has one of those faces. But all around terrific acting from him. So, do you have any thoughts on how refugees were portrayed in this movie?
Similar to the way that I felt about Omar's character, they're portrayed with dignity. They're not lazy. They're not uneducated. They're not trying to seek things that aren't them, aren't theirs. And they're willing to follow whatever rules and regulations they have to, because they want asylum.
Yeah.
So they're going to, they're really concerned for rules, and that plays when the one guy gets the chicken.
Yes, which I thought was definitely playing a dangerous game, but it was such an adorable trait for that character. Again, he was my favorite character in the whole movie. But before we started this episode today, I did a little digging and found some interviews on YouTube with the producer, who says that despite when this film was made, the whole Syrian crisis with the refugees was still incredibly relevant. But they noticed that the representation of refugees was being portrayed as multiple people on like very dingy rafts crossing oceans, and and huddled up in giant vans, and they wanted to approach it from a more realistic level, which is what this movie is, where it's just they're not refugees, they are just human beings attempting to find a better quality of life, and it was beautiful because and what better way to kind of bond over human woes and laugh through all the sadness than with friends. I love the little scene where they're debating on if Rachel and Ross were on a break, and I'm like, right. That was absolutely brilliant, because I feel like that's such an American thing, but it's being argued with the characters who probably wouldn't have never seen this, and I really, really enjoyed that episode.
I loved how they threw a little bit of shade at Friends, though. When they're talking about that they got the DVDs from the donation center, but the guy couldn't get a coat because coats are in demand, Friends are not. And I'm like, wow, that's throwing some serious shade. Now, you could be throwing it towards the TV show, or on a deeper level, you can say, we're in it for ourselves in a way. So,
and also, in a lot of ways, I feel, particularly speaking on behalf of WandaVision, the episode where we discover that the reason why it's happening is because little Wanda Maximoff grew up watching sitcoms. And then I was kind of thinking that a lot of maybe these refugees were seeking something of a fantasy that is represented in American television, and that perhaps the reality they were seeking wasn't real at all. Because I know that there was a line in there somewhere where I think Omar is, kind of fed up, and he's really digging into Farhad. He's saying, that kind of life doesn't exist. The Friends universe, there's nothing like that exists. It's a fantasy, and it was one of the more dramatic parts of the movie, and still very strong and poignant. But I feel that's kind of what we, even now as Americans, we kind of want that, real relationships with real people that are over exemplified, where problems are presented in the first 5 minutes and resolved by minute 22. So. But yeah, no, I thought the portrayal of refugees was definitely very realistic and relatable too. I each one of these characters I was able to relate to on some level. So kudos goes to the writer and the director, and especially the actors, for portraying such believable, lovable characters. Even the locals, who I was thinking, what assholes, but there's a quirkiness that I love about, especially the lady on the little motor scooter. So what are your thoughts on the stylistic choice of the film?
Aside from shooting in 4:3, do you mean like the colors? Like, what do you mean stylistic choice?
I mean, for me, especially getting vibes off the trailer, which I think they did the logical thing of trying to promoted as a comedy, which
Yeah.
it has comedic elements, but it's not a traditional comedy at all.
No.
To me, it felt like Jared Hess meets Wes Anderson, because there were some very flat images that were going by like a Wes Anderson movie, and
Hmm.
the humor itself was very reminiscent of Napoleon Dynamite. I was kind of thinking in that sense of how that stylistic choice.
I think it suits the narrative
Mm-hmm.
because you've got people that are stuck waiting. So things go by slower.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot going on. And when I was looking at before I saw it, a lot of people were saying this is a slow burn of a movie. But then again, it has to be
Really?
almost. Yeah. Because,
Hmm.
I mean, it takes a little while for like real conflict to show up. Like you understand, oh, okay, he's, escaping a war. But the first scene is two instructors trying to teach dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that scene so much and what they were trying to teach the refugees. And I thought that was just hysterical. And I love the fact that it jumped right into the action. I can't recall if there are any opening credits aside from just Limbo.
Yeah, I think it was just low. You got as with any indie movie, you always have like 6 production company logos in the front, and you're right. Actually, very long. I mean, it's very well shot. It's not like it's badly shot. And I think it actually won a few awards for best cinematography, at like the BAFTAs, I think, or some sort of British festival.
Well, Mank just had to kick its ass.
Yeah, man. Oh my gosh, Mank. I wish I covered that, but that was, oh god. And I'm so sad that I missed that double feature of Mank and Citizen Kane in the Cine Capri. I was really sad that I missed that. But yeah, I think you're right. I guess remembering it now, I do remember the long takes of just him walking through these amazing Scottish vistas. And I remember, I'm thinking now back to when Limbo faded in. It was just a very long, slow fade, Limbo. And then it was, okay. I guess I could see that as a slow burn. But I think I went into this movie thinking it was definitely a straight up comedy when I realized that it wasn't. I think that's where I kind of switched gears, and I'm thinking, oh, I got to be patient with it now. So I think I went in expecting like that quirky indie comedy a la Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of Napoleon Dynamite-esque moments in there, particularly with like the again the dancing scene in the front where she slaps the guy and he just walks to the chair like a battered puppy. I especially want to say with Farhad's obsession with the chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. That just seems, I mean, there are chickens in Napoleon Dynamite. I'm not saying I ripped it off, but I'm just thinking, it's kind of stupid and quirky, but it's so heartfelt, Yeah. And I love those kind of movies.
I think the most Napoleon Dynamite-esque scene I saw was when they went over the word used, and the guy stands up and says, I used to be happy, then I came here. And I wanted to bust out laughing because I felt that in my soul.
Yeah, I laughed. It was just me and this other dude in the far corner of the theater, and I was the one laughing my ass off. I forgot about that scene. Oh, thank you for reminding me about that one.
Oh,
see, but it's that kind of humor that drives this movie, and I'm all for that. I love that kind of dry humor, deadpan humor. So, but yeah, stylistic wise, I think there's like a transition of the movie. Like the first half is that dry, deadpan humor, and the second half is where like the real emotional weight presents itself, which I think was done on purpose because it feels like that first half is so desperately trying to be like a Friends episode where it presents a lot of comedic elements, comedic characters, and then suddenly it just flips on its side and the reality of the situation hits, and the immigration police arrests that one individual, and the other person dies of exposure, and there's the emotional scene in the cabin with the brother, which we'll get to. it's just that it's the natural progression of that story is beautiful, and I love it. I think we pretty much both have hard-ons for this movie, right? Because I fucking love it.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised as to how much I enjoyed it, because and we've talked about this a year plus ago. I don't normally like the theater in which I saw this in, and I know it's one of your favorite theaters.
Camel View?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, we've discussed my dislike for Camel View.
Okay, what? Hold on, let's go over that again. Why do you hate Camel View?
Every time I go there, something wrong happens.
Huh.
One time, I think this was when I went to go see On the Basis of Sex. They started the movie without trailers, so people came into the theater pissed that they missed like 15 minutes of the movie, and I could hear him yelling at the usher. There was another time I went to go see the Mr. Rogers documentary, and one of the cashiers at the concession stand just left and never came back. And it had a significant line to it too. And I'm just like, what is up with this theater? And I also feel like their prices are a little more expensive.
Well, I don't know about the other problem. The trailers, I don't know. The employee probably disgruntled, but I mean, yeah, the prices are higher because it is premium seating. They got the leather recliners, and so it's a luxury theater. So you pay a little bit more than what you get for the Harkins Rockers at like Tempe Marketplace, But I look at it as more as like movies like Limbo get that exposure in grandiose theaters, which it never would have.
Yeah.
I do miss the old Camel View, though. I love that theater. The old theater that was across the road before they tore it down and built the new one.
Yeah, the Camel View 5.
Yeah, I loved that theater.
Theater.
No, I was just about to say that I love it, but the one thing unfortunately I remember from it the most was that I was in a sold-out theater, a little small theater in the back, sold out, maybe about 30, 40 people were in there, and I was the youngest. Everyone else was above the age of 60. And the movie we were watching, blue is the warmest color. So I was like, we're okay. We're doing this. We're watching this amazing movie with very explicit sex scenes with a bunch of seniors. And that's the one thing I remember from the original Camel View. But I do miss that theater. And you're right. You do pay a few extra bucks, but I think it's important considering that the movies playing are independent movies that would never get this kind of exposure. If it weren't for Camel View, it would definitely be playing at just Shea 14, and who really goes there anymore?
If given the choice, I'm honestly Shea 14 over Camel View. And it also could be because I don't know if I'm just geographically challenged. That is a hard theater for me to get into. Like, I love when I can get to the parking spot that's right outside Dick's Sporting Goods, can walk in, and it's right there. But then it's like, okay. There was one time where I GPSed the address, and it put me like a mile and a half away from the theater. And I'm just like, I don't know how this is a thing. Camel View 5 still shows up on my GPS for my car, which is a 2017. So
yeah, what is that? I think an Ocean 44 is there now. But Steven, the trick for Camel View, the parking garage, second floor, direct access to the theater. So next time, go to the parking garage.
All right, I'll stop hating on Camel View, but it's just like, do we really have to go? Like, I'm not kidding, because the website that I looked at for it had Camel View, which was like 15 minutes away. And then there was Tucson, which was like 100-some miles away. And I almost honestly thought about it.
Going to Tucson. Oh, my.
I thought about it because I did this.
Yeah, I would go to Tucson to go to the Loft. Okay. I've always wanted to go to the Loft in Tucson.
Is that, I'm assuming that's another theater?
Yeah,
chain?
it's like no, it's an independent cinema, very similar to Camel View and what's that theater way down south here? That Dollar Theater, but they don't show old movies. They show It's like a more independent Alamo Drafthouse. They show a bunch of indie flicks. They do a lot of movies in 35 millimeter film. Oh, it's beautiful.
Film Bar?
Yes, the Film Bar. It's like that, but
Okay.
in Tucson, and
Okay.
they're finally reopening in May, and I'm really tempted to just go watch something down there because, I love indie movies, I love indie theaters, and this one looks to be a very classic looking old theater, and I'm all for that. So
Yeah.
but shit, what were we talking about before Camel View? What was the question? The stylistic choice? I think we got that covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks. It's a very beautiful movie.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best looking films I've seen, and really should be an aspiration for indie filmmakers and college students, where it's just like, I could tell this was a limited budget.
Mm-hmm.
And the quality is just amazing. They knew there was a lot of psychology in the shots.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Because
nice.
you get these wide open shots, and it's still that very condensed aspect ratio.
Yeah.
And then you have just a smaller figure of Omar walking through those vistas. It's visual poetry. I love
Yeah.
it.
And it's wonderfully contradictory, because you see wide open fields, but you also feel contained at the same time, which kind of goes off of what you were saying. But it was just like, I really enjoyed that. So
This guy is actually in limbo.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this next question, and I think it's fascinating because I before the episode began, I read these questions for Steven, and we'll just get into the question and then we'll talk about it. So I asked Steven, what were your thoughts about Farhad's reveal, and I'll let you take it from here.
So Harrison asked me what I thought about Farhad's reveal, and there's actually two reveals. One deals with the theme of the movie, which I don't want to spoil, and then the other is his sexuality, where I did not pick up on it at all. And Harrison goes, well, it's not explicitly stated. And I got worried, because it's like, I swear you and I saw the same movie. We really did. And I never left the theater for anything, so what other reveal are you talking about? And you go based off of, well, it's not explicitly stated that he's gay, but, you mentioned something about his friends, and then you mentioned that he's a fan of Freddie Mercury, where it's like, being a fan of Freddie Mercury doesn't automatically make you gay. Like,
No.
Yeah, there are plenty of gay performers that I'm a huge fan of. Like, I like Neil Patrick Harris. I like Freddie Mercury. So I didn't pick up on that one at all.
Yeah, and I guess it's that's absolutely fascinating to hear because in Afghanistan, which is where the character is from, you can be executed for being gay. So the moment he said that I can't be who I am in my own country, that for me was the turning point, and suddenly that line hit so hard, and I was in tears with that scene and that character. The moment where that whole interaction where even Omar realizes that he's running away from a war, but he's running away to save his own life.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know. Yeah, as a heterosexual male, did that not? The line didn't really mean like it wasn't explicitly stated, but the character is gay for sure, and it's not just because he's a fan of Freddie Mercury. Although it is, it is cute that he is basing his look off of Freddie Mercury and all that. But
yeah, but I mean that's also a testament to the writing, where he's not a flamboyant gay man. He's not in your face about it. He's not, and the other refugees don't make a point to criticize it for him. So when I hear the line, I can't be who I am over there, you can interpret that as a refugee of like, I can't have the life that I want. And when you say like, I can't have the life that I want, that is universally vague.
Yeah.
Like, I
and for me, I loved the line, "I can't be who I am in my own country," but the next line that is said, it made me love. I didn't think it would be possible for me to love Farhad anymore, and it's such an absolutely heartbreaking line. Omar says, he says, "I've never met someone like you," and then what really did it for me was Farhad's response, and he says, "Neither have I." And I was like, "Oh, Farhad, I just want to hug you. I just want to hug you and tell you everything's going to be okay." And that, for me, is what made me I'm like, yep, I'm going to give this such a fantastic rating just for that character alone.
Yeah.
And you're right. And especially when it comes to, LGBTQ representation in films, you're absolutely right. He wasn't overly flamboyant. It wasn't in your face. It was just a human being trying to survive, wanting to be who he was. And notice how he didn't want to find a lover. He just wanted to have a life. He wanted to have an office, a suit, people to say hello to. And I'm just, that shit just hits me hard. And I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so we're on to the last question, and I think this is, for me, was, I think, one of my favorite scenes in the movie. So let's talk about Omar's brother Nabil and the scene in the cabin. I just love, again, this comes down to great writing, where a good writer will kind of make hints at something in the first act, and it must absolutely come true in the third act. And he said that in order to get a cell phone signal, you have to go to the place where the giant, turbine, the fans are, the giant electrical whatever. So he heads there because he now willingly wants to communicate with his brother, and his relationship with his brother. I think that's a fairly interesting thing we should talk about too, just because it's you kind of get the fact that you're not quite sure what side Nabil is fighting on, whether it's for the country or against it. It's not. I don't think it's really explicitly stated. Did you get anything from that?
No, I knew two brothers took different paths. And I think it's a wise choice keeping the brothers' characters' decision pretty vague. Because ultimately it doesn't matter which side of the country he's fighting on. But it's, he's referenced when Omar is talking with his dad, he gets angry and says, "Sorry, one of your son is a hero, the other," I forget how he refers to himself.
Is a coward.
So, yeah. And so he knows that the family supports the decision. So I thought the dynamic was interesting. I thought it was realistic, especially in today's day and age where politics and religion divide us. They're probably the two most divisive subjects. That and does pineapple go on pizza? That's a fairly divisive.
Yeah. And so the end of the movie, or close to the end of the movie, I mean, I knew that his brother wasn't there, but they played it so beautifully where I believed that he was. And, I feel there was that fantasy element of, the Friends episode where magically the brother appears and now they're going to talk everything out and everything's going to be okay. And, I think that is Omar wanting that conversation that he ultimately, I think, just never has with his brother, because it's implied that he is dead, right? He's gone.
Yeah, it's implied. Never explicitly stated.
Yeah, never stated.
Which, I like exposition dumps. Like, just give me everything I need to know in the first 15 minutes, and then I'll follow it through. Although that is some of the worst writing you could ever do.
Transformers 2 comes to mind.
Back to the Future comes to mind for me.
Ah, right.
Or it's just like the opening shot of just all the televisions. I get, okay, there's a terrorist group. They're after Doc Brown. Time's going to be a subject matter. And eventually he's going to go back in time because that's what the trailer showed me.
And then there's plutonium and a dog.
Yeah. Aw, Einstein. Okay.
Yeah. Einie.
But he's either dead or he's definitely a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more of the fantasy route because Omar's been in isolation so long, he's hallucinating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going stir crazy.
Mm-hmm. Which still works. It's a very beautiful scene. I mean, that's all you have to say about this whole movie is that it's just beautiful. You know it, and again, I think it's no accident that Friends is portrayed a lot in this show, just because that's the closure he wanted, and he has to fantasize about it because TV in itself is a fantasy world where problems are never solved that quick. Everyone's miserable for like years, and suddenly, oh, maybe we don't get closure. So he made his own closure, and oh god, I was in tears. I'm not gonna lie. I was sitting there thinking, oh, I can feel the pain just easing, and he's building up to playing, and I just loved it. That's really all I have to say about it, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Was there anything else that we missed that you maybe want to bring up? Because that's the end of my questions here.
Oh no, you and I were on the same page, so it would just be me agreeing with you.
Yeah.
I look forward to having a movie where you have one opinion on it and I have another, and I'll be more than happy to tell you why you're wrong. It's just, but you picked a good one.
Yeah, you're right, and it's not a bad thing that we love this movie. It's a great movie. Please, if you're listening to this and you love indie gems, it's playing at Camelview and it's probably playing at your local independent cinema. Go watch it, or if it's on video on demand, rent it or buy it. I think it's absolutely worth it. In fact, I think this is a movie that I am going to buy when it gets released physically. But yeah, no, you're right. I think most of the drama from podcast episodes comes when there's two people on opposite sides saying, "No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you why." So,
or because, well, what's nice is you have different life experiences, and I'm a straight white male.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the life that they had, being a refugee. So it's really interesting to see that culture, and every character had a purpose, whether it be comedic relief or something for them just to watch. And you really see that it's not their old country that's hell for them. It's the fact that they can't go anywhere, and you essentially escape from being a prisoner in one country to being a different type of prisoner in another country, and you're like, wow, these guys really cannot win at all.
And yeah, I want to tell a little story real quick, because the movie I just made, Nobody's Boy. I had done a pre-screening for my friend who is straight Latino, and he had me pause the movie because he had questions, and at that point that was a very early cut, and I was getting I wanted to hear some other people input for the edits and all that, but he said in regards to the scene involving Grindr, which is a gay dating app where you can just find someone to date or hook up with, it was such a foreign concept to him when it came to him seeing the scene of the main character literally finding someone within minutes to meet. And it was just so weird because I told him that's how it is in the gay community, and it was just interesting to see that side of the film from someone who hasn't really been exposed to that world, and it just sort of happened here with the character who was gay, and you didn't catch on to that, and I thought that was fascinating. And it's that kind of stuff that I like living for, and telling people the different perspective that I see it as an openly gay man. So fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, because that just missed me by like a long shot, but it also made me realize like my expectations on it, because I'm not against homosexuality, but I don't like flamboyancy. To give you an example, Jack from Will and Grace is my tolerance.
Okay.
Anything more than that, it's like, okay, I don't need your sexuality shoved in my face. And that's not a gay thing. You have toxic masculinity heterosexually. And I'm just like, I don't need to know your sexual positions or stuff like that, or how you're doing on Plenty of Fish. Like, I don't need to hear that. Like, please stop.
Yeah, and trust me, there is a lot of that in the gay community. A lot of, bros and six packs. Just it's that we could honestly talk for like 3 hours on a whole episode about that. So who knows? I don't know. This podcast is always evolving into something. So who knows what may come next from the Final Gaze. But do you want? Let's get into final thoughts.
My final thought is see the movie. It's an indie gem for a reason. It's deserving of all the accolades that it's getting. It's nice to... I like foreign films because you get the culture of how they make the films, but then you get a glimpse into their life. Like, if you made a movie about my life, I would get bored. Because I like to see people who aren't me.
Same. I absolutely love this movie. I watched the trailer thinking, oh, that looks cute, and thinking I was just going to see an okay movie, and it changed. It shook my world. I absolutely am in love with this movie. I would probably go see it again, but I'll wait patiently for it to come out to Blu-ray. I doubt this is going to get a 4K release, because when has that ever happened to an indie gem like this? Like, I was so disappointed that Nomadland didn't get a 4K release. It's just a Blu-ray release, but that movie deserves to be on 4K. But yeah, no, I absolutely love it. Everything about it is great. And like I said, if you, as Steven said, if you can, go watch it. It's amazing. And you'll be supporting an independent movie that actually was it was supposed to premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival, but then COVID happened, so it got delayed to, I think it was to October. So technically it came out last year, and now it's barely coming out to theaters here. So but yeah, go watch it. It's amazing. So what we do for ratings, Steven, is that we usually just pick like a theme from the movie, and we go out of 5. So in this case, out of 5 ouds, how many ouds do you give Limbo?
I don't want to automatically give it 5, because 5 out of 5 is a perfect film, and I don't believe in perfect films. So I would go 4.5 ouds.
Beautiful. For me,
5 ouds.
I'm just gonna say it. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 ouds. But that's just because my rating doesn't really go on. It doesn't have to be the perfect movie. It just needs to make me feel like I did watch a perfect movie. And sometimes those imperfect movies sometimes get 5 stars too. Like, for instance, I would give Dead Alive 5 stars because it set out to do exactly what it set out to do, which was to be fucking gory and insane. So for me, automatic. I just knew when the movie ended, I sat there like, wow, I'm gonna give this 5 stars, and I did. Or 5 ouds. Sorry.
Right. No, because I mean, there's certain scenes like when the guy does the "used to" line. That was 1 out in and of itself, just because that line was amazing, and their response to it was good. The cinematography is worth another out of itself. I like the writing, so that got up there. But if you asked me what were things that I thought could be improved, maybe more cinematography choices. Because when they're in this small room, most of the time it's just a master shot. It's like, okay, maybe switch it up a bit, get some close-ups here and there.
See, though, I think it was kind of done purposely because, again, I'm just thinking that they really kind of based some of those shots off of like a TV sitcom cinematography, where you just got, and it kind of looked at it more as like maybe like a play. I'm probably reaching, or maybe I'm just defending this movie. I don't know, but I think it was all done intentionally. I don't think this was a movie that was led up to fate. I think everything was done intentionally. So,
Yeah.
especially with those wide shots, definitely a message there with that aspect ratio. I believe that, But I'm all for it. I know the shot you're talking about. It's kind of like where they're sitting in the living room eating, and there's like that heater on the floor, and
Yeah.
So I think that's a stylistic choice, and I'm all for that. So, So that was us discussing Limbo. Join me next week as I discuss the new Guy Ritchie movie, Wrath of Man, with yet another college alumni, Miguel Gonzalez. So it's kind of funny how that worked out. Jesus last week, you this week, Miguel next week. So Steven, why don't you take us out?
All right. Well, until then, you can find us on all social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Pandora, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Podbean. My name is Stephen Kesson.
And my name is Harrison, and we are the Final Gaze.